Irma Grese, also known as the Hyena of Auschwitz, was one of the most notorious female guards in Nazi concentration camps during World War II. Her life and actions represent a chilling aspect of the Holocaust, showing how ordinary individuals could commit extraordinary acts of cruelty within a regime of systematic oppression. This video will delve into her background, her role within the Nazi regime, her capture, trial, and eventual execution. On October 7, 1923, in Braken, Germany, Irma Grese was born to a working-class family. Her early years were marked by hardship. She grew up in a strict household and faced the early death of her mother, who committed suicide when Irma was just 12 years old. Her father, Alfred Grese, struggled to support his children alone, and the Grese family lived under the stress of economic hardship common in pre-war Germany. Irma's education was brief, and she left school at 15. Like many young Germans of her time, she was captivated by the Nazi regime's propaganda and nationalistic promises. The Nazi Party's influence on her generation was profound, especially its emphasis on Aryan superiority and anti-Semitism. In search of a purpose and drawn to Nazi ideals, she joined the League of German Girls, BDM, the female wing of the Hitler Youth, an organization that indoctrinated young women with Nazi ideology. Her devotion to the party grew, and in 1942, she joined the SS Auxiliary, where she received training as a concentration camp guard. At age 19, Irma Grese was assigned to Auschwitz-Birkenau, where she began her ascent within the ranks of SS female guards. Initially a low-ranking Aufseherin, or overseer, she quickly earned a reputation for cruelty, ruthlessness, and extreme zeal in carrying out orders. At Auschwitz, Irma developed a reputation for sadism. She reportedly participated in beatings, selections for the gas chambers, and psychological torture. Survivors recounted her violent behavior and cold indifference to the suffering of prisoners, especially the women, whom she seemed to take particular pleasure in punishing. She was infamous for carrying a whip and a pistol, often using both indiscriminately. Her participation in selections was especially heinous, as she would decide which prisoners were fit for forced labor and which would be sent to their deaths. Irma's behavior continued when she was transferred to the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp in 1944. Here she held a high-ranking position and enforced camp policies with the same brutality she had shown at Auschwitz. Conditions at Bergen-Belsen were deplorable, with prisoners suffering from starvation, disease, and severe overcrowding. As the Allied forces approached, conditions worsened, yet Irma's cruelty did not relent. In her role, she continued to exercise unchecked power over the inmates, contributing further to the camp's horrors. On April 15, 1945, British forces liberated Bergen-Belsen and arrested the camp's personnel, including Irma Grese. She was taken into custody and became one of the primary defendants in the first Bergen-Belsen trial, also known as the Belsen trial, where she faced charges of war crimes. Irma's trial began in September 1945, held by a British military court in Lüneburg. Her demeanor during the proceedings was unrepentant. Witnesses, many of whom were survivors of Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen, testified to the horrors they endured under her command. They recounted the physical abuse, the terror she inflicted, and her role in the selections that condemned thousands to their deaths. When asked if she felt remorse, Grese maintained a cold and indifferent stance, defending her actions as following orders. Her lack of remorse shocked even her captors and made her one of the most infamous figures of the trial. Ultimately, Grese was found guilty of crimes against humanity and sentenced to death by hanging. She was one of only a few female guards to receive a death sentence in the aftermath of the Holocaust, her age and gender not serving as mitigating factors in light of the overwhelming evidence against her. Following her sentencing, Irma Grese, then only 22 years old, was moved to the prison in Hamelin, where she awaited her fate alongside several other convicted war criminals. She was one of the youngest female guards sentenced to death and became a symbol of the disturbing role young women played in the Nazi concentration camp system. In the days leading up to her execution, Grese reportedly maintained a chillingly composed demeanor. She seemed resolute, showing neither remorse for her actions nor fear about her impending death. To many of the British personnel overseeing the prisoners, her calmness was unsettling, especially in light of the atrocities for which she had been convicted. Her refusal to acknowledge the enormity of her crimes reinforced the image of her as a person completely unrepentant. On December 13, 1945, Irma Grese was led to the gallows at Hamelin prison. She was executed alongside other convicted Nazi war criminals, including fellow female guard Juana Bormann and several male SS officers. British executioner Albert Pierre Point, who carried out hundreds of executions in his career, oversaw her hanging. Pierre Point, an experienced and efficient executioner, had only briefly interacted with Grese prior to the execution. His observations of her demeanor reinforced the perception of her cold indifference. Grese reportedly faced her death with remarkable stoicism. According to some accounts, her last word was schnell, or quick, signaling her readiness and lack of remorse even in her final moments. Grese's execution was a significant event, representing both justice for the victims of Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen, and a sobering reminder of the horrors ordinary individuals could commit under the influence of a brutal regime. At the time, public reaction to her death sentence was mixed, with some questioning the moral implications of executing a young woman, even one responsible for such heinous acts. However, the overwhelming evidence of her cruelty, combined with her lack of contrition, underscored the necessity of her punishment in the eyes of the Allied forces and survivors alike. Following her death, Grese's life became a symbol of the complex role of women in Nazi Germany. Her actions forced society to confront the uncomfortable truth that women, too, were capable of unimaginable cruelty when given power within a dehumanizing system. This reality contradicted the common stereotype that only men could exhibit such violent and oppressive tendencies. Historians and scholars have since examined the case of Irma Grese to better understand how young women were indoctrinated, motivated, and ultimately transformed into active participants in one of history's darkest periods. Today, Irma Grese's name evokes the broader question of female complicity in the Holocaust, a subject that is often overlooked in narratives focused primarily on male figures in the Nazi regime. Her case is frequently studied in discussions of Holocaust history and psychology to explore how otherwise ordinary individuals can be drawn into a system of ideological fanaticism, desensitizing them to violence and brutality. The legacy of Irma Grese also highlights the Nazi regime's ability to recruit and radicalize young people, a reminder of the dangerous impact authoritarian propaganda can have on youth. Irma Grese's story has left a legacy that resonates as a warning against the seduction of ideology over individual moral judgment. Her life and death stand as a chilling reminder of what can happen when personal morality is suppressed by allegiance to oppressive systems. Grese's role in the Holocaust serves as a cautionary tale, demonstrating how ideology, unchecked power, and a culture of dehumanization can turn individuals into perpetrators of unfathomable violence. Her story endures not only as a testament to the victims of her cruelty, but as an enduring lesson on the importance of empathy, personal responsibility, and resistance to destructive ideologies. This video provides a detailed narrative of Irma Grese's life, capturing her transformation from a young German girl to one of the most reviled figures in Holocaust history. By examining her actions and their consequences, we gain insight into the complex dynamics of power, ideology, and individual responsibility that underpin the Holocaust's atrocities. Thank you for joining us in explaining this important moment in history. If you found this video insightful, please like, share, and subscribe for more content on history.